good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Beatrice and part of the Global Wellness Institute team, and we also have Susie Ellis and Nancy Davis on. They both head up our organization. The call today is a Global Wellness Institute initiative collaboration call and hosted by the Diane Well Initiative. And we have a very special topic and experience prepared for you today, namely a virtual death over dinner or tea, an unforgettable conversation. I'm delighted to introduce the moderators and organizers of the call, Amy McDonald and Diane Doster, who co-chair the initiative, as well as Michael Hebb, who is an esteemed initiative member. Thank you so much, Amy, Diane, and Michael, for organizing this experience for us today, and over to you.
You beat me to it, Beatrice. Well, I just wanted to take just a few moments because I think like we're going to do today, we're going to be honoring some of our ancestors. I just wanted to take a moment and honor how we got here today. And my main goal is to not break down and cry. But I really wanted to thank everyone for being here. And I'm not going to be able to find the words to express how deep my gratitude is that we're all here today. And this has been a long time in the making. And I know with Nancy on the phone, she knows that this has been a couple of years in the making to get to today. And so I really wanted to acknowledge Nancy's support of Dying Well and the fact that we were able to have it a trend a couple of years ago, and that she held really 2 years for me to finally be ready to launch this with Diane Doster. And for me, what motivated me was really that I had the pleasure and honor to witness and really facilitate both my parents' natural death at home. And so that was really what woke me up, the realization of how important it was to have this conversation, especially when we're in the wellness business, right? So how can we possibly talk about wellness and talk about being in the moment and living every moment if we're afraid of death? So here we are, putting death on the table and death over dinner. So I'm incredibly grateful to all of you. And I'm especially grateful also for Diane for joining me on this path that we're on with the Dying Well initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the official Dying Well Initiative's coming out party, if you will. Amy and I are just so humbled to be joined by an esteemed collection of experts, innovators, practitioners, researchers at the end of life and grief space, and they lead us. I know that they also are excited, and most are here tonight, this morning, to have you all joining us. Our primary objective this year is to expand and facilitate an open conversation about end of life and grief across all of the different channels in the wellness space that we all represent. So it's truly a sacred moment in time that we all share, that we're alive together at this time in the Earth's evolution, and that we share the commonality that we all will have an end to our life. And from that position, I just invite us all to put the hats down that we wear, the roles we play, and to just show up and be human as we all are. And speaking of sacred, now let's get on with the show. It's a special privilege to introduce to you Mr. Michael Hebb. He's the founder. I have to read his bio because there's a lot to keep up with, but he is the founder of Death Over Dinner. It's a free resource that has inspired over 1 million people to break bread and talk about end-of-life plans. He is the author of Let's Talk About Death, the founder of a new massive project called EOL, that's a single source end-of-life planning and service platform for providers and care seekers. And Michael's been gathering leaders around dinner tables to have important conversations for the last 20 years, working with pretty remarkable organizations, including the Obama Foundation, the World Economic Forum, Summit Series, Nature Conservancy, the Clinton Global Initiative, and there's certainly more. But without further ado, let's welcome Michael Hebb.
Wow. It is overwhelming to look out and see all of the faces. And, you know, this project was created with the idea of us being in each other's presence, being physically together, cooking for each other, nourishing each other, feeling each other's warmth. And what I've realized in this extraordinary time that we live in is that not only do we still need this, these type of opportunities to connect, but in fact, they work quite brilliantly. As one of our table leads tonight, a dear friend of mine and an esteemed leader in the end-of-life space, Coach and Paley Ellison, said to me not too long ago, was we have an opportunity to warm up the screen. And we all have that opportunity tonight. So, or this morning, wherever you are, we have an ability to really connect with each other and quite literally warm up the screen and see through it and see it just as a means of connection, not as a thing that keeps us separate from each other. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of background on where this crazy project came from and why we ever thought to put death and dinner in some sort of strange cocktail together. And it came from a long history of bringing leaders together at the table, like Diane mentioned, and realizing that what connects us most is our vulnerability, is our human qualities, is our fragility. Our resilience and our fragility, strangely, are the two things that connect us most powerfully. And I realized that giving people an opportunity to talk about the most difficult things in human experience had the impact of revealing what is most human and what's most beautiful in them, not only to themselves, which sometimes is the greatest realization of this work, but to those people around them, to their loved ones. And, you know, we do a lot of incredible transformative work. We show a lot of our vulnerability in very isolated experiences. We tend to be most vulnerable and do our most of our growth in our, you know, our closest relationship or relationships, or in therapy, or on some great wellness retreat, right? It's hard often to bring that back to our lives, to our families. You know, somebody says, oh, not somebody, but Ram Dass said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And the design for Death Over Dinner was really about how can we unlock what is most beautiful, most human, most vulnerable within each of us while we're in our communities that we spend the most time around. The thing is, it also works really well with a group of strangers. So tonight we get to do that. Maybe you'll know some people that are at your table, but some of the aspects of Death Over Dinner, it's very much designed as a wellness activity, just so you know. From the beginning, one of our key inspirations or of unifying ideas is that repression causes disease. Our culture does not create a lot of opportunities for us to express ourselves openly in groups. And so this was very much designed as an idea of modeling what it looks like to do the opposite of repress. And death is something we repress more than almost anything else. And so if we can learn how to have an open-hearted relationship, an open expression around end of life, we will model that in other places in our lives. And it's contagious. And so a good kind of contagion. And so That has been one of the things that has informed us. And also from a wellness perspective, it's a wellness activity to have a plan. So we rely on schedules, structure, scaffolding. All of these things are essential parts of the other areas that we practice wellness, whether it's nutrition, whether it's physical, yoga, meditation. There is structure and there's a plan. When it comes to the end of life, we don't have a plan. Most of us don't. And so the very activity of increasing our literacy and our comfort around this conversation, identifying what our fears are, our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, and moving towards a nuanced a nuanced plan that represents who we are, is actually a wellness activity. It may be the most important wellness activity. I think it might be more important than getting your downward dog just right. And it will give you a sense, I mean, do that too. Yoga seems to be, have a hard time these days because everyone likes to beat up on yoga. But nonetheless, get your downward dog just right. But also think about the idea of being able to express your plan to your loved ones as a wellness activity. And it's not just for you. So it will give you a sense of control. It will also increase your relationship to end of life, to your mortality. It'll also give you some sense of calm. But the other thing is it's a wellness activity and a gift to your loved ones. If your loved ones know what you want, when it is your time, when it is your last chapter, when it is your last day, and when you're gone from this plane, being very clear with them about how they can honor you, what you wanted in your last days, what you wanted to happen to your body, what you wanted a memorial to look like. You are actually giving the gift of a meaningful way to grieve. Okay? So grief is just awful. There's no way around it. But at least we can give our loved ones a meaningful way to grieve. So there's a lot, and we can go in a lot of different directions around why this is a wellness activity. Some of the things that we've brought to the forefront, that I think there are a lot of hospitality people in the Global Wellness Institute and probably on the call tonight. And some of the same qualities that hospitality holds dear, like beauty. We wanted to make sure that Death Over Dinner, we made the website beautiful, the idea of having a beautiful engagement around these conversations, not just having a conversation with your insurance agent or your lawyer or a doctor or an oncologist, but we wanted you to have these conversations in beautiful settings. And one of the reasons for that is beauty motivates us, it moves us. We change because we're moved by beauty, not so much so by the shoulds and we have tos, or else we'd all have advanced care directives just filled out because we've heard that enough. And so we've really tried to inject beauty into this conversation. And I think you'll find, even with strangers, that there are a lot of beautiful things happen, even in the short period of time that we have together. So just a couple of things I'm going to leave you with before we go into our breakout rooms. We are seeing a massive rethinking of end of life in our culture right now. And a way to think about it is much like what has happened to the food world. We over-industrialize food and hospitality, quite frankly. We forgot how to cook, we forgot how to garden, how to grow food, what to do with it when it came out of the garden, how to share it with each other. We over-industrialized food and we actually stripped it of its nutrition in the process. So we did the exact same thing with death. We over-medicalized and over-industrialized death. We stripped it of its nutrients. And we've stripped it of its meaning. And so every one of these conversations, what you're actually doing is imbuing meaning back in to end of life. We're remembering together how death is a human act, it's a community act. And the other thing, I think, save the best for last, everything that you're going to say tonight has nothing to do with death, has everything to do with life. No one on this call knows anything about death. Koshin might, but no one else knows anything about death. We all know about life. This conversation shows us how to live. It is a medicine in and of itself. It gives us the shape of our lives, what's a priority, how we want to live, etc. So, a couple things before we jump into our rooms. You have some extraordinary people on this call. One, first shout out to Kaylee and Beatrice for making this happen. They're behind the scenes making sure you get into the right rooms and just being here in general. And then we have some extraordinary table leaders. I don't have enough time to go through all of them, but we're going to send a follow-up email, and we'll tell you who the table leaders were and give you links to their work as well. But if the table leaders can just put the applause reaction up in there, and you can start to see who the folks are that will be leading you in your individual tables. And these are extraordinary folks that have been working in the end-of-life space, many of them for a long time, and therapists and activists and designers, hospice workers. And so a couple things as you go into your room. So we're going to break out the way that the evening flows, and maybe you read the email, maybe you didn't, it doesn't matter. We sent you the questions in advance because we wanted you to be able to sit with them. Don't worry if you didn't do your homework, no one's in trouble. But we're going to send you to breakout rooms. Now, when you get to the breakout room, your first, the first thing that you'll likely want to do is to fill the space with a little idle chatter. I'm going to ask that you don't do that tonight. It's okay for a little discomfort, a little silence for a moment as everybody joins in the room. There should be about 6 or 7 people that join into your room, and there should be a table lead. Now, if you end up in a room without a table lead, it's okay, because Kaylee is going to swoop in, and she's going to put the questions for the evening, the script for the evening, in your chat. Something might go wrong and 2 table leaders might end up in one room, and you never know with technology. So she'll swoop in and put the script for the evening, and you don't even need to elect a table leader because almost every death dinner that's ever been done has not had table leaders. It's just humans talking together, so you're going to be fine. Now, if you get to a room and there's no table leader and there's no Kaylee, luckily, all of you had an email with the script for the evening. So somebody's going to be resourceful and is going to grab it, and you're going to be off to the races. So when you start, you're going to get to your room as soon as it seems like you have critical mass. If you brought a candle, that's when we're going to start lighting candles for people that we've lost. And I want you to think of somebody starting now that has died in your life, and somebody who had a positive, powerful impact on you. All right, so you're going to share about that person. This is not a time for a lengthy eulogy. Usually we have people light candles and do remembrances and honoring their ancestors before we feed them. And we hold them hostage with the idea of keep it short because you're not going to get food until all the candles are lit. So we don't have that same ability tonight. So for the sake of your table, keep it short, about 30 seconds or so. Who is the person? What was their name? What was the powerful impact you had on their life? And then once everybody's gone around and done that, some people have candles, some won't. You can raise a glass, you can bow in their direction, but still say their name and honor them. But as soon as that's done, then you'll go on to the other questions. Now the questions you can answer, the idea is that everybody participates and answers a question, looking into their heart, thinking about it, being vulnerable, saying what's most true for them, and then moving on to the next question. If a question makes you so uncomfortable or it's just too much right now with what's going on in the world to answer that particular question, don't worry about it. Don't even think about it. Just go on to the next, and you can say pass, or you don't even have to say anything. And then we'll all come back together. You'll get a little indication that we have 10 minutes left. And that's when we start appreciations in the round. And that's very simple. You just think about a person at the table that you want to say something you admire about, and then it goes in this kind of alphabetical order. we just want to make sure everybody gets appreciated at least once. Some people might get a couple extra because we're not sitting around a table and we can't control it. But with that, and a huge thank you to our table leads for being there and holding space for people and being willing to do this, for the Global Wellness Institute for having the bravery to bring this conversation into the mainstream where it belongs, and Amy and Diane for being our fearless leaders in it. Okay, I will see you in your breakout rooms. I'm gonna try playing a little more music because it might take a second. And I'm really, really touched that you're all here. So have a wonderful time in your rooms. Terrific. Well, let's do a quick lightning round of anybody who has just a one-sentence reflection, and you can just unmute yourself and share it. We'll do just a few of those so we can hear from people. Just
can I start first?
Reflect about the experience. Sorry, go ahead, Austin.
Okay, well, thank you very much for all this opportunity. And then personally, I was very curious because the subject we are dealing with is not a very light subject. And then everybody here, I assume they are kind of getting sick and tired about the webinar and all those, the arrangement. And then, but surprisingly, even we didn't have the leader, and then, but everybody could become a leader. And then naturally, discussion flows. And then we ended up with everybody happy and then really appreciate. And also even myself, this kind of the webinar, the platform is a very good tool to kind of cover this type of the really deep down subject. I really appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you, Austin. I appreciate you. Got time for a couple more.
I would like to host my own death dinners.
Great. Let us know if we can help, Jamie.
All right.
Thank you very much. I feel this was a very uplifting experience. I feel like I've had my philosophy validated, and I appreciate you all.
Oh, thank you. If you're Lynn or Lynn family, it looks like you have a crew there.
We do. I have to say too, first of all, I want to thank you and your organization. It's so insightful, and for Global Wellness as well for seeing this as being such an important part of living. And, for me on a personal level, to have this experience with my parents and my brother from California that called in was so incredible. And, it inspires me now with the people I work with to take that to them, because I think this will enrich everyone's life. So thank you.
Thank you. I love seeing you all together.
Egg was supposed to be served for death at dinner. I'm still waiting.
The dinner's here, sorry.
We just gave you the wrong address.
Well, he's in California, we're in Florida.
Death over dinner, dinner not included. Should be all right.
That with time so precious, this was a delightful way to spend time this evening. So really, thank you.
Thank you, Taylor and Ryan.
We're newlyweds. You hadn't had this discussion before, so I feel like we're energized. We got something kind of was lifted off. So it's just so good. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you to particularly to Amy, because she sort of started by saying thank you to me, and I think I'm so proud of her for making this happen and getting through the things she's gotten through in her own life to get here, to be able to share this and light this fire in the industry for paying attention to this, which I think is just hugely important and will continue to be. And I'm very, very grateful for her friendship and for her leadership.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for everything you're doing. I am just gonna end. I'll hand it over to Amy and Diane. I want to respect everybody's time. We're at time, but thank you to our table hosts. Thank you for everybody showing up and openly sharing. It means the world to us. Amy and Diane.
I think I just quickly, I'm sure Diane has closing words as well. I thank you, Michael, and everybody else that helped organize this, because there was a lot of collaboration. I think the only other piece is that we felt like it would be important to tomorrow send out a list of resources and sort of follow up. So you will be getting it, everyone that participated. You'll get something from us. And then we are talking about doing another virtual roundtable on grief in the workplace. It's going to be sometime at the beginning of August. We're not quite sure of the date yet, but we are putting something together. So you will be invited. Do you have anything else, Diane?
I don't see her, but all right. Well, we will sign off. Again, thank you, everyone. Stay safe. We'll see you soon in some form.